Housework and childcare should be a wife's job, right? Making your husband do it is just failing as a wife. My mother-in-law just can't stand the fact that I let our son help with housework and childcare. How can you live like this, forgetting who's earning the money? I'm left speechless by my mother-in-law's tirade. Don't forget it's thanks to your husband that you can live this life. Ingrate, that's what you are. And to think I even have to do laundry. I'm not a maid, you know. My husband, standing next to me, doesn't even try to defend me. If I divorced you, you wouldn't be able to live with just our daughter, would you? I'm at my breaking point, facing constant criticism from my disdainful husband and mother-in-law. My name is Kelly, a 30-year-old office worker. I met Sam during our college years, and we started dating. After becoming working adults and reaching a suitable age, we got married. Soon after, we had our daughter. And I decided to change jobs after giving birth due to my irregular work hours. Now I'm working full-time at a place with less overtime. I didn't realize it at the time, but after getting married, I found out that Sam had a bit of a mama's boy streak. He always consults his mother on every decision. When we were searching for a new home after getting married, I was surprised he brought his mother along. This living room is spacious, and the shopping area is convenient. Let's settle on this one. What do you think, Mom? I wondered why he sought his mother's opinion when I was the one he should be consulting. But the sunlight isn't that great here, and I think another place would be better. Yeah, I was thinking the same. It was supposed to be our home, but his mother's opinion took precedence. Eventually, we settled on a place his mother approved of. Which I also liked, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. Even when buying furniture and appliances, his mother would tag along. Hey, your mom must be busy, right? Why don't we just go with the two of us next time? It's hard to relax with his mother around, and I wanted to decide with just my husband. It's okay, Mom's not busy. It's better to have her help and take her opinion into account. That works better for me. Even when I hinted that I didn't want his mother to come, he didn't get it. Occasionally, he would skip dinner at home, saying he's not hungry and go to his mother's place. I didn't probe much since I was working and it was one less dinner to prepare. I didn't want to complain, thinking his mother must be happy to see her son occasionally. I didn't want to be seen as a nagging wife and get disliked by my husband and mother-in-law. Years into our marriage, with our daughter growing up, we started discussing building a new home. Sam is a calm person and doesn't complain when his mother isn't around. He plays with our daughter, so I was looking forward to living peacefully as a family of 3 in a new house. Mom's getting on in years, and I'm worried about her. How about we live together? Out of the blue, Sam suggested living with his mother. She must want to live with her son and granddaughter. I was absolutely against living with my mother-in-law. She never listens to me, and I always have to be careful not to upset her. She adores her son so much that to her, I'm just an inconvenience. I can't face her every day, I absolutely want to avoid that. But, your mom wants to live near her current home, right? Yeah, she's got friends there and doesn't want to move far. I knew my mother-in-law didn't want to leave her familiar neighborhood. Living near your mom's house would make my commute to work way too long. It'll double my travel time. I wanted to live in an area that's convenient for commuting and good for raising kids. Hey, this place is just a short train ride from your mom's house. It's close to the station too. What do you think? I showed my husband some land options that I had a real estate agent gather for us. The locations I chose were near parks and nature, and conveniently close to shopping areas near the train station. The deciding factor was the proximity to his mother's place, close enough for visits but not living together, which he agreed to. I was relieved to have avoided living with my mother-in-law. However, she began visiting our house more frequently. My husband welcomed her, and I couldn't say no to her visits. I understand her wanting to see her granddaughter, but my daughter doesn't take to her at all and always ends up crying, which makes me anxious about upsetting my mother-in-law. I want to relax on weekends, but I can't when she's around. Hey, can we just spend weekends as a family? I end up feeling uneasy when your mom is here. Mom's family too. You're the one making it awkward. My husband didn't empathize with my feelings. Every time she visited, she'd criticize my cooking and housekeeping, saying it's training. If something wasn't clean, she'd point it out, making me feel inspected. It's tough working full-time and trying to clean on weekends. Especially when she points out exactly where I was about to clean. You really don't have the basics of cooking down. You'll never improve this way. Yes. I'm sorry. No matter how hard I try, my cooking never seems to please her. Exactly. Even your seasoning is always too strong. Mom's is just right. My husband joins in criticizing me. Though he's usually silent about it unless she's around. I talked to my husband about it when she wasn't there. If you have complaints about me, can't you tell me directly? You don't have to wait for your mom to be here. Can't help it. I only remembered because of what Mom said. He became sulky and uncooperative. Even without ill intentions, it's hard to feel supported in our marriage. Our arguments about his mother became more frequent. When our daughter started elementary school, my mom called about my dad's declining health. It's tough for her to care for him alone at her age, so I decided to help out whenever I could. I left our daughter in my husband's care. She's grown and helps out on her own. Knowing I'm busy with caregiving, she tries to cooperate, which I appreciate. One day, my mother-in-law came over and berated me. What are you thinking? Sam's doing all the childcare. I'm sorry, but my dad's in bad shape, and he needs care right now. I believe in helping families in need, but she doesn't seem to agree. Housework and childcare are a wife's job. Making Sam do it is failing as a wife. If you want to care for your father, do your duties at home first. I was speechless under her fierce criticism. She couldn't stand me having my son do housework and childcare. Do you even realize who's earning the money for your lifestyle? Don't forget it's all thanks to Sam. She blamed me while my husband didn't defend me. Even though I work too. I even had to do laundry. I'm not a housekeeper, you know. I had asked him for help when I was really pressed for time, and he didn't complain then. But it seemed like he was harboring resentment. It even seemed like he was deliberately provoking his mother's anger. As I got busier with housework, childcare, and caregiving, my husband's attitude worsened. I try to do housework whenever I can, but I need help sometimes. At least take care of your own things. It's understandable that I can't always tend to our daughter. But I wished he'd at least clean up after himself. Huh? A wife is supposed to take care of the house, right? Why should I have to do it? Is this how you skip out on housework? My husband completely refused to understand my desire for his cooperation. You earn less than I do, yet you act all high and mighty. You know, if I divorced you, you couldn't live just with our daughter. After I switched jobs, my salary dropped, and now I earn less than my husband. I prioritized a job with less overtime because we have a young child. My husband started making unreasonable demands, occasionally showing me a filled-out divorce form. If you want to take care of your dad that badly, make sure you clean the house spotless every day before you go. He knows I work full-time and can't do that, yet he says it on purpose. Even when I'm exhausted from overtime, skimping on dinner isn't allowed. Aren't there too few dishes? Don't try to get away with just stir fries. And I don't eat store-bought ready meals, just so you know. He demands elaborate homemade meals, and I was physically and mentally exhausted. Since then, I started taking our daughter with me when I visit my parents. I've given up expecting anything from my demanding husband. I stopped caring about him and stopped looking after him as much. My mom adores our daughter and is always happy when we visit. My daughter loves my mom and enjoys playing with her. It's nice you come, but aren't you pushing yourself? You look tired, I'm worried. My mom quickly noticed something was wrong with me. I'm fine, Mom. I feel guilty for always relying on my mom. My father, whom I was caring for, passed away. Amidst our grief, my mom and I discussed the inheritance. It turns out, my father was a wealthy man, owning multiple properties, including our large family home. The house is big enough to be called a mansion, old but well-maintained and still livable. Originally, it was just my parents living there. I remember my husband being surprised by the size of the house when he first visited to meet my parents. It's in a popular area for vacation homes. Surrounded by nature with great views, a place dear to my parents. This house is for Mom to keep living in, right? I naturally thought my mom would inherit and live there, but she had a different idea. About that, I think the house is too big for just me. It must be hard for my elderly mom to maintain such a big house. After discussions, it was decided that I would inherit the house, and my mom would move to a convenient apartment using the inheritance. After my father's funeral, I stayed at the mansion with my daughter to sort out his belongings and handle the inheritance paperwork. While I was working alone, my mother-in-law and husband suddenly showed up. "What are you doing here so suddenly? You've inherited this mansion, haven't you?" As she said this, my mother-in-law was looking around the mansion. "It's big enough for all of us to live together." Huh? Confused by what she meant, I asked her to clarify. "From today, we're living together. I'll thoroughly train you to be a proper wife in our family." She said this with a sly smile. Train me as a wife? I couldn't help but laugh at her words. I looked them both in the eye and said, "A wife in your family? Who are you talking about? I'm single now, you know." Huh? What are you talking about? They were confused, not understanding my words. "I've already proceeded with our divorce, so we're strangers now." "Too bad, you don't have a wife to train anymore." Huh? You think you can do that and get away with it? When I informed them about the divorce, both of them widened their eyes in shock. They clearly didn't expect me to actually file for divorce. "There's nothing to forgive," Sam himself signed the divorce papers. "How dare you talk back like that? A wife shouldn't defy her husband." My mother-in-law became furious and started yelling. In fact, just before my father passed away, I had submitted the divorce papers that my husband had been using as a threat. Even while I was caring for my father, my husband didn't help at all. Instead, he made my life miserable, and I had lost all affection for him. I had been trying to tell them about the divorce, but my husband and mother-in-law barely spoke to me. Then my father passed away, and I missed the chance to tell them. My anger peaked at my mother-in-law's words. "It's ridiculous to think that a wife has to obey everything. A wife is not a housekeeper." I didn't care about being disliked by her anymore. I was no longer her daughter-in-law. "How dare you? Don't get cocky." My mother-in-law snapped and lunged at me. I tried to resist, but she overpowered me with incredible strength. "Stop it! Let me go! You got a divorce without consulting? What a terrible wife, disregarding the precious son I raised." She yelled with bloodshot eyes. "Hey, Sam, stop your mother!" However, my husband didn't try to stop her. He seemed in disbelief about the divorce. Realizing this was more than I could handle, I immediately called the police. Even as I explained the situation to the police, my mother-in-law's rage didn't subside. "Please calm down." When a police officer restrained her, she quickly shook off his arm. "What are you doing? Let go of me." She struck the officer in the face and was subdued. She was deemed a danger and taken to the police station. As my mother-in-law was taken away in a patrol car, Sam stood there, stunned. "I'm going to claim compensation for the mental anguish I've suffered. I've kept a record of everything." "What are you saying?" Sam was bewildered, unable to respond. Without his mother, he was helpless. "I'm living with Camila, so you'll need to pay child support every month." Without his mother to back him up, Sam could only hang his head. After a while, my ex-husband came to my workplace. Apparently, he had spread some bad rumors about me through a mutual college acquaintance. Heard his wife run off on him. Some mother-in-law is in trouble, poor woman. People at work started looking at me differently, and he eventually resigned due to discomfort. His hair was messy, his beard grown out, and he looked untidy and unclean. He had apparently fallen into gambling due to stress and was financially struggling. His mother was also addicted to casinos, making it hard for him to make ends meet on his new job's salary. It's inconvenient for you to come to my workplace. Well, you hardly ever reply when I contact you. I didn't want anything to do with my ex-husband or his mother anymore. Listen, can you reduce the child support? Things have been financially tight for me lately. The child support is an amount we both agreed on. You said as a father, you'd do what you can, remember? He clicked his tongue and glared at me, clearly annoyed. Things have changed, it can't be helped. My new job pays less, and the bonus is small. From my perspective, if he didn't gamble, he could afford the alimony and child support. But he was trying to cut down on child support, showing no sense of responsibility as a father. You must be struggling on just your income. Hey, let's get back together. I'm utterly astounded when my ex-husband suggests remarrying just because he's struggling with money. His pretense of kindness infuriates me. Huh? Marry you again? No way, I've had enough of a mama's boy like you. What did you say? My ex-husband, who clearly lacks self-awareness of being a mama's boy, reacts violently to my comment. You can't make any decisions without your mom, can you? Even the house, furniture, and appliances, you always consulted her for everything. Well, it's not like I consulted her for everything. No matter how much he argues, I have a lot to say. Oh, I know about you going shopping for clothes with your mother and letting her decide. That's what people call a mama's boy. Ugh. He looks frustrated, having been hit with the truth. In his mind, he's just a dutiful son, but to me, he's nothing but a mama's boy who can't decide anything on his own. You always mocked me for earning less, but I won't let you say that anymore. What do you mean? After switching jobs, I was recognized for my hard work and got promoted. I've been promoted. Now I earn more than you. What are you talking about? You can't possibly earn more than me. He refuses to believe my words. He always bragged about his higher salary and looked down on me. He never imagined his wife, whom he looked down on, would surpass his salary. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. I can show you my pay stubs anytime. He falls silent at my confident response. Besides, with the inheritance I received, I've been living comfortably without my ex-husband. There's no more being forced to do housework or dealing with a nagging mother-in-law. Then, how about you give me a share of that mansion you inherited and the other properties? I should have a right to half of it. I have to explain to my ex-husband who's making unreasonable demands. You see, the inherited property doesn't become marital property. Sorry, but you have no rights to it. Damn. This is all your fault for filing for divorce out of the blue. I didn't do anything wrong. He still doesn't seem to accept the divorce. If you did nothing wrong, we wouldn't be divorced. Did you help me at all when I was busy caring for my father? You did nothing. Well, that's because you didn't do your share of the housework. I wanted to do housework, but I couldn't. Couples are supposed to help each other out in tough times. Realizing he didn't have the spirit to support me as a husband, my affection for him cooled. He probably couldn't understand the feeling of not being helped when most in need. It's absurd that I work the same hours and still have to handle all the housework and childcare. What are you talking about? Housework and childcare are a wife's responsibilities. You're the one at fault for trying to push them onto me. He yells, disregarding his own actions. His mindset won't change no matter how much I explain. It's probably something his mother instilled in him from childhood. My ex-husband, who made a scene in front of my office, was eventually taken away by security. Later on, my ex-husband and his mother, struggling financially, had to sell their family home. They moved into a rundown apartment, barely managing to pay alimony while living. However, both of them couldn't quit gambling, making their lives quite tough. As for me, while work is busy and challenging, my mother helps me out, and my daughter and I are living happily together. I smile more now, and my daughter seems happy too. Before, my days were spent worrying about my ex-husband and mother-in-law's moods and reactions. But now, I want to live my life my way and show that to my daughter. I have to raise my daughter on my own from now on. The experience with my ex-husband made me realize the importance of parenting. I want to teach my daughter to be kind and to help others in need. No matter how tough it gets, I've decided to stay smiling and get through it.